Okay, well, I think we'll go ahead and get started just to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you for participating in the BIA's Fargo Mayoral Candidate Forum. And welcome to the two of you. I know Sekou RSVP, so he should be joining us soon. And Josh said that he would join us a bit later today as well, so they will be coming. Dave Pepcorn did RSVP to come, but he has a funeral this afternoon. And Bryce Johnson, our CEO, would normally be here as well, but she also has a funeral. So just wanted to mention that we are recording this session, just so you're aware. We share it with our members, so those that weren't able to be here today can also watch and hear from each of you. I'm Elizabeth Kozel. I'm the Education and Public Affairs Specialist here at the BIA.
I'm Trent Garrett. I'm the chair of the Public Issues of BIA, the Public Issues Committee, as well as the Executive Director for Cass Lake Community Land Trust. Jeez.
Long name. So in addition to thanking you for being here, thank you as well for filling out the questionnaire. Each of our members here have a copy of that. So that just helps us get an even greater idea of your ideas for Fargo. So we host these forums so that our members can get to know you, as well as you getting to know our organization. We represent a little over 670 member companies in the Cass Clay area. And the companies represent building remodeling for residential, commercial, multifamily, and then also the different trades that support that building. So we're a resource for elected and appointed officials. As both of you know, we focus on diverse housing stock, commercial growth, keeping the industry vibrant, since it's an economic engine for the region. Also a big focus on homeownership and skilled workforce as well, and giving back to our community. So for today's event, we'll just have some quick basic rules. First, I'll ask our members here to introduce themselves so you have an idea of who's in the room. And then after that, each of you will have 2 minutes to make opening statements. Paige Feeney, our events coordinator back there, will hold up a yellow sign when you have 30 seconds left. And then she'll also ring a bell when your time is up. We just ask that you please respect that so everyone has a chance to answer the questions. And then we'll go into a Q&A portion with 1 minute answers. And then at the end, we'll have closing statements also at 1 minute. So now I'll turn it over to our members to introduce themselves, name, company, and then your role with the BIA. So
my name is Shannon Roars with Roars, and I'm the president of the Philadelphia District Association.
Troy Matter, Aaron Schultz, also on the board of directors with BIA.
Julie Zeiss, J&L Construction. I am the current treasurer for the BIA. I'm Joyce Falstad with Cyrus and Tile, and I'm a former board member and now just a common person on
Steve Shaw, the field specialist. I'm on the board of the BIA, also with foundation trustees.
Elliot Steimer with HMF Contracting, and I am the foundation president.
Rosemary Travis with Border States, and I'm the chair of the fundraising committee on the foundation.
John Goldman, JT Services, senior life director or father time depending.
Dan Landman, Haven Homes, Public Issues Committee.
Adam Olson, All-Star Construction, and immediate past president of the BIA.
I'm Krista Mund. I'm on the staff at the BIA.
Paige Feeney, events and marketing at the BIA.
thanks. So now we'll start with opening statements. So 2 minutes. I'll start with Denise first.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me here today, and thank you sincerely for what you've done to help Fargo be the city that it is and help it continue to grow in a meaningful way. I think when I think about what's important to a city and the people who live there, we want to make sure that we make it a place where people truly want to live and they're proud to say they're from Fargo. And for me, that really comes down to four things. The first for a city is that to understand the city is well run. And for me, that's one of my pillars, fiscal responsibility as a city. First of all, it's important that we tell the truth about how the city is well run, that our services are delivered with the passion of a really great group of people. Our number one asset in the budget, certainly, but that every budget we have is balanced every year. In fact, we had a finance committee yesterday. We just returned $9 million back to the reserves in the bottom line from 2025. You keep hearing that Fargo's bankrupt and we have all this debt. I think we need to have an honest conversation about the kinds of debt and that all of that debt is secure. You don't save your way to a $250 million water reclamation or water treatment plant. You borrow, but you know how you're going to pay it back. And that comes with fiscal responsibility. And I'm very comfortable with where we are when it comes to city debt, knowing we have a plan and how we're going to repay it. Similar to a mortgage, you don't save your way to a $50,000 house. You have to borrow and you have to be fiscally responsible to pay that back. So number one, the city's well run. But how do we talk about that? Number two, that people feel safe. Public safety, the perception where we are today. We clearly have some work to do. It starts again with the facts. I think the fact that we're in the middle of hiring a permanent new police chief coming off of a lot of change, a good change, technology that was important to the city, but now you're going to see a lot of innovation, collaboration, and getting to that next level. And you're going to see changes in how people perceive public safety and how we address the community and communities. And so, is that the end?
Yes.
Okay. I'll go back to my other two things. I missed the yellow card.
Michelle.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your day to be here. My name is Michelle Turnbuck, and I'm running for mayor because I believe Fargo's future depends on getting the fundamentals right, and that starts with how we grow. No one feels the impact of city policy more directly than the people in this room. You're the ones navigating rising costs, supply chain challenges, workforce shortages, increasingly complex regulations, all while trying to deliver quality homes and developments that keep Fargo moving forward. Right now, I'm hearing the same concern over and over, and that is uncertainty. Unpredictable special assessments, delays in approvals, a lack of clear communication. These issues just don't affect your bottom line. They impact housing affordability, economic growth, and whether Fargo remains a place that people can afford to live. As mayor, I will prioritize three things. First, predictability. Builders and developers deserve a system where costs and timelines are clear up front, not shifting halfway through a project. Second, efficiency. We need to streamline permitting and inspections so projects move forward without unnecessary delays halfway through a project. And third, partnership. The city of Fargo should not be an obstacle. It should be a partner. That means regular communication, transparency, and a seat at the table for the people actually doing the work. Because when you succeed, Fargo succeed. If we want to address housing shortages, keep prices attainable, and continue to grow responsibly, we must create an environment where building is possible, practical, and encouraged. I'm committed to restoring trust, focusing on core city services, and making sure Fargo remains one of the best places to live in the country, to build, invest, and raise a family. Thank you, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. Sekou, welcome. We're starting with 2-minute opening statements, and then we'll go into a Q&A round, and then closing statements at the end. Paige Feeney's in the back, and she has a sign that she'll hold up when you have 30 seconds left, and then she'll ring a bell when you reach the end of your time. So, your opening statement.
Thank you. Want to apologize for my lateness. I just put it wrong address and then driving her. Then I'm confused, and then I just not getting the right. I started off by first thinking I knew where I was going. So I apologize, but I'm glad to be here and to be up here with all these wonderful people and to interact with you directly, personally. Fargo is a growing city. As every growing city, there are expectations and challenges. So what we are experiencing in Fargo, they are not unique to Fargo, every growing city is the same. But I'm running for mayor because Fargo is at an important point in its growth. We have strong momentum, but we also face real challenges: housing affordability, infrastructure costs, and long-term planning. I believe the city needs leadership that listens, works collaboratively, and focuses on practical solutions. My goal is to help ensure Fargo remains a place where families that work here can also live here. Um, and that growth benefits every neighborhood. I am committed to bringing people together, bringing residents together, bringing builders and business leaders together to move the city forward in the direction that we ought to be. There are major issues within our infrastructure development that needs to be looked at. Our zoning laws, our permit licensing and all of that. We need to take all of that into consideration because I think there are some bottlenecks that we have to take care of. And when we do these things together collaboratively and not just sitting on taking the lead in everything without consulting, then we can build together and live properly. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll get into the questions and I'll start with Sekou for this first question. What is one big idea that you have for Fargo?
That's an interesting question, and I will answer it not just from a building background. One big idea I have for Fargo is to make Fargo that place that everybody wants to come to. And to make Fargo that place that everybody around the country, around the world want to come to, we have to work together. We have to work together to build a smart city. We have to work together to focus on the issues that matter. We have to work together to bring people together, listen to people, and understand what the problems are, and sit at the round table and solve these problems together, instead of few people thinking they have all the ideas. So my idea is to make Fargo affordable, make it safe, and make it work for every resident.
Thank you, Michelle.
My main focus is to redirect the city to core city services. I think that is our priority, and that includes public safety, our police, our fire, to make sure that your families are safe, your children are safe, they're able to be out, and you don't feel like your homes are unsafe. Making sure that those core city services are funded first is of the utmost importance. So safety, streets, water, garbage, the things that make a city run.
Thank you, Denise.
I think like the big idea I have is the importance of housing and building. But let's start with the MetroCog the study that was done and completed, you were part of. Let's take it off the shelf, get to a table and truly collaborate with the stakeholders that know the industry and the business. Affordable housing is a primary concern across the country. Also to that end, having regular meetings with legislators and other community leaders about how we address the policy, the incentives, the programs that will directly impact affordable housing. I have proposed regular meetings with, now I can see that time, regular meetings with legislators that happen on a quarterly basis. And lastly, adding community forum outreach, where we will have regular community forums with the citizens, hear what their top issues are, what ideas do they have, but have real engagement. We have some technology that can engage citizens. We haven't leveraged it. Let's optimize it, use it, and get that feedback and act on it.
Next question, and we'll start with Michelle. Michelle, what do you perceive to be the most urgent housing challenge or opportunity we face in Fargo?
Well, having discussions with several developers recently, I'm finding out that it is much easier to build in West Fargo and Moorhead than it is in Fargo. Would you agree with that? I'm finding that there's probably too many different portions of City Hall that are involved. It's making the developments moving forward, having restrictions, and that's a problem. We want people to build in Fargo. We want our growth happening here. And we prefer that over Moorhead and West Fargo. So that is definitely something that I have become more aware of, how the city may be a roadblock for you, and you need to fix that and make sure that it is absolutely easier for you to build in Fargo. And Fargo is your first choice.
Denise?
Yeah, same. I think the lack of action you're seeing by the city to really make significant and meaningful change, again, with the input of the people who know business. Again, MetroCog study sitting on a shelf for far too long after the investment was made. I know there was frustration around the inaction there, including from me and across some city departments, number one. Also the communication that happens between building and cities when you have a question and getting an expedient answer, working again in the industry, but with the experts at City Hall, and it being a roadblock for you, certainly. And so, you know, when we have policy concerns, when we have process concerns, how are we going to look at truly streamlining and leveraging the technology that sits in City Hall that we're not using? And I think we have great opportunity there to be much more efficient and much more effective.
Sekou?
Thank you. I think the biggest issues include rising construction costs, regulatory complexities, permitting timelines, and the overall cost of land and infrastructure. Delays and uncertainties and high upfront costs can slow development and increase price for home buyers. There's also strong demand for housing across all price points, which puts pressure on supply. The city's goal should be to create an environment in which builders can operate efficiently and confidently while meeting communities' needs. So we have to look at those things. Thank you.
Thank you. For this question, we'll start with Denise. What are your thoughts on communities offering incentives for housing or business development?
I'm an advocate, and we're in the middle of looking at what this will look like long term with the work of the growth plan, the land development code that's underway with the city. Many of you have been part of that discussion, whether it's been through a commission or meeting the city staff. But we have to be very intentional, including our incentives committees. We just had a meeting this week where we're looking at combining the incentive committees at City Hall into one, making it more efficient, but expanding the number of people so that we can engage more stakeholders and have the right people at the table to make the right decisions. So as we finalize the growth plan, as we finalize the land development code, and as we incorporate the right incentives with the input of all of you, what will that look like for the future as we finish the diversion? You know, we see limited growth. It's got to be the right growth and how we tackle and address infill.
Okay, thank you. Sekou?
I support incentives, especially when they are targeted, when they are transparent, and when they have measurable outcomes. Incentives such as property taxes for new home owners, you know, can encourage development and expand the building supply. However, they should be reviewed periodically so that we can ensure they are achieving the purpose for which they were put in place. If we don't do that, then it isn't.
Thank you. Michelle?
I think there's a pros and cons to incentives. If we take an empty parking lot that's been sitting idly by for years and actually put something that will have a return on investment, that's a great place for an incentive. The Mid-America Steel site would be a great place for an incentive. Places that businesses can build without an incentive, I think that's where we need to pump the brakes. And we are also dealing now with pushback quite a bit from the county and the schools. So this is something that needs to have conversation with not only the person who wants the incentive, but also those other parts of city government and your property taxes, school and county, that need to come to the table because they are also affected by these.
The next question will start with Sekou. How do you work with people you disagree with?
We disagree with people all the time. We have to look at a bigger picture. That's what I met somebody yesterday while I was in the store, and that's somebody disagree with most of the time. And he's always out there. He has the worst things to say, but I'm not looking at the person, I'm looking at the bigger picture. So we have to bring people to the table. All of us are different, needs are different. Everybody has different needs, everybody sees the world differently. So we should look beyond people and we look at the bigger picture and see what people really want. And that's what city leadership needs to do. Bring people together, we might not agree, but if we can keep communication, so we can come to the conversion.
Michelle?
I wake up in the morning. I think we all deal with people that we disagree with every single day. At this point in time, just in where we're at, those disagreements seem to be more divided than ever. But you're a professional and you do the job. And I believe that's just how I approach it. I've worked with several people I have moral or just my core North Star disagreements with, political disagreements with. But when you come together and have a conversation and have dialogue, I think that's the most important thing that you can do.
Denise?
Yeah, I think we literally work with people we disagree with all the time. And I think it starts, number one, by leading by example, being professional, being transparent, being truthful, and not using scare tactics. I think that's really important. I'm also not afraid to have a hard conversation with someone that does disagree with me. I've had some conversations where we started, I had literally someone yelling in my phone about a vote, and by the end of the conversation said, I really didn't expect to have such a great conversation with someone I disagreed with by the end of the conversation. I think that is part of being a leader, is the ability to respectfully disagree with someone, do it professionally, not be afraid of telling facts, even if they're hard to hear, but always remembering that their point of view is their point of view and respecting their point of view. And, you know, as mayor, I won't be afraid, I said this before, when there is disagreement at the dais to manage and run the meeting. I know how to use a gavel and run a meeting. I know how to manage a board and commission, done it for many years, and I won't be afraid to use it.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start with this next question with Michelle. What are your thoughts on the 2-year property tax exemption for new construction?
Well, I do think this needs to be communicated better between home buyers and realtors. We've often heard of some stories where new home buyers are all of a sudden shocked 2 years into their purchase of what their mortgage is now and what they're paying. So that is very important. Do we need it? Is there a way that that's a conversation I would like to dig deeper into. Maybe we don't need it. Maybe there are ways that we can work on getting our housing more affordable without the incentives. You know, we're at a point where we have the property tax cap and we're struggling for revenue. If we can get home prices down a little bit, and I have some ideas about that, that's a conversation we need to move forward.
Yes, I absolutely support this. Every surrounding metro has this as a program, and Fargo would be clearly at a detrimental disadvantage if we don't offer this. But I support it because affordability of housing is one of the biggest challenges across the country right now. I also support continuing to look at, I know we made improvements to the homestead tax credit last legislative session. We need to continue to monitor and watch that. I supported property tax relief. We do have some work to do with area legislators on the 3% cap limitations and what that truly means to a city and a county and school board. When we have inflation on average of 7% each year, right? And so how do we make that work for everybody? And again, that starts with legislative relationships, with regular meetings, with conversation, with transparency, and with all political subs understanding how budgets work and impact their respective organization. And so I support incentives, absolutely.
Sekou?
I think for a growing city like Fargo, property tax exemption should be in place, given the fact that the poverty rate in Fargo stands at 12.8%. And the people heavily impacted by this rate of poverty are young people, everybody between the ages of 18 and 34. We got people leaving college, and we want people to stay in Fargo. We want people to get a job here, start a family. But when young people find it difficult to even buy a home in Fargo, that becomes an issue. That's why the property tax incentive is very important to attract new people to come here and to also encourage people that are already here to stay here and not leave. It's going to be good for our growth and development. We have to put that in place. And when I become elected as mayor, that's one of the things I want to review and see what we can do from that.
We'll start with Denise on this one. Just listen, please. Are there any policies or ordinances in Fargo that you would like to see changed? And if so, what would be your proposed change? And just as a caveat to this, it can be related to housing or building or just in general as well. So,
Well, I think we're gonna see some outcomes of the work of the, and I'm not trying to be evasive here, but I know there's specifics coming from the growth plan where the land development code obviously will have related ordinances, and the incentive work. And so, again, understanding and hoping that all of that is in real collaborative, done in a really very collaborative way with the right stakeholders and stable along the way, which the commitment's been made up front to do. But seeing and following that through is really important. I've also been working on a number of ideas for changes in ordinances for our downtown, when it comes to some things that other municipalities are doing, that might improve some of the impressions. It's not about, and again here, it's not about villainizing or targeting a segment of people. It's about real behaviors that are impacting the business community and others, and have been done effectively with different incentives in different ways. So more to come there. I also quietly behind the scenes myself changed a zoning ordinance that was in place for childcare. And I told you that was an important issue for me. It's going to require fencing, and I got rid of it.
okay, thank you. Sekou?
Thank you. Change is a major component of growth. I remember when I was a teenager in high school, in my little Baptist church, and we wanted the church to grow, wanted the church to change. And I went to meet my pastor. I said, hey, my senior pastor, I think we could do X, Y, Z for the young people. And then he was so angry. Why we not changed the church? We are Baptist. So I asked him, do you have a photograph of you when you were 7 years old and he was almost 60? And he was like, what's that for? And I said, I just want to see if you have a photograph of you when you were 7 years old. I said, because when I compare that photograph to you today, you realize that lots of changes because you've been growing. If we want to grow farther, we have to be open to change. There are so many things we have to change. One of the things we have to transition the city from the city commission to the city council so that we create opportunity, equal opportunity and representation for other people. We need change in some of our zoning laws. We need change in so many things. So definitely, when I become elected mayor, I want to sit and see some of those things that need to be changed.
Thank you. Michelle?
After having conversations with several developers and finding out what some of your obstacles are, I had actually a conversation with Secretary Burgum this morning about FEMA and the restrictions that are placed on some of your housing. It makes no sense to me with the diversion that you have to haul dirt in to rise the level and then haul dirt out to install your basement. That seems crazy. Why did we spend all of this money on the diversion and then we still have these obstacles in place? Also, there's extra features with basements that you have to do that is adding to the cost of home affordability. So I think it's important not only just city ordinances, but having those working relationships with our state and federal leaders that can actually make change on that level that would affect us. If we could take away those FEMA restrictions, I think that would help with affordable housing immensely.
Denise?
I did.
Oh, you did this. Oh, my gosh.
Take another minute.
No, sorry.
Cowbell.
Yeah. Listen, that's what it is.
Yeah. So each of you have kind of touched on this question, but we'll start with Sekou. What suggestions do you have for increasing the amount of attainable housing in Fargo?
That's an interesting question. And I think what we need to do is to come together, and if it's not a question that one person should answer, we need to bring other stakeholders together. We need to bring other partners together and study the data and see where we need to go from here. That's where I would want to start. It's not something I say, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. But what does the data show? I love to to come up with data-driven solutions so that it is more impactful to our community, neighborhood, to every resident in Fargo. So let's come together as partners. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the trends. Let's look at what we can do together and propose better solutions on how we can do it. So that's what I would do. I want to make data-driven solution. And right now, I don't have all the data. I'm not involved with everything when it comes to construction and development. With all the developers, I need some data. So I can come up with an informed data-driven solution.
Michelle?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What suggestions do you have for increasing the amount of attainable housing in Fargo?
We have to get rid of the roadblocks in the city. We have developers that are ready to go, ready to build, and they can't get past the city with permits and what's needed to get the development started and get the shovel and machinery into the ground. So I think that is important. There's too many roadblocks and too many obstacles for you on the city level. Maybe too many different departments butting heads, and instead of working together, we're making it more difficult for you to build, and that's why people are choosing to build in other communities. So we definitely need to improve that and become more efficient.
It's a little bit of a broken record on this one. Number one, transparent implementation and finalization of the growth plan and how we execute that. Number two, getting the MetroCog study off the shelf, the right people at the table. You know, one of the recommendations that was clear as day was the land trust utilization. How are we leveraging and utilizing the services? As you said, right next to me, Trenton, of the land trust. And then working with state and federal legislators on incentives and financing. You know, again, as I said, this problem is across the country. It's a real challenge with interest rates, with availability, with tariffs and inflation, and you know, there are real issues in the market. And so what are we going to do? Going to have to be solved together and in collaboration with transparency.
So with Michelle, as we look into the future, what do you think is going to be one issue that Fargo is going to continue to deal with? And what would be a potential solution for that issue?
Well, I think as we grow as a city, we're dealing with more crime, which to me is number one, public safety. So we're in the position right now where we have a change of leadership, which came at a great time. We have a wonderful candidate ready to step in to that position, and I think things will change dramatically when we focus on public safety and we focus on fully funding our police and fire. Our community will be much better for it in the end.
Thank you. Denise?
Yeah, it's the fiscal responsibility and the budgeting. The 3% cap is going to continue to be a challenge. And so how do we address that, knowing that revenues are limited for every school, county, and city, and infrastructure continues to cost more money, and Fargo is a growing city, and so we're going to continue to have added expenses. As I said before, the city's number one asset is its people. 76% of its budget that deliver the services. Every year there's a $5 to $6 million automatic increase in salaries because of staffs. That's a real number. And so how are we going to manage the budget within the constraints of the cap, working with legislators to find some relief in other ways, and continue to come at the end of each year with some additional revenues to the bottom line for our reserves, which is so important to our rating. And so I see that as continued for the next 5 to 10 years being our challenge.
Sekou,
Can we repeat the question, sir?
as you look into the future, what do you perceive to be one issue that the city of Fargo will continue to face? And what would be a potential solution?
I think our budget challenges, we are always in shortfall. So as we already know that we've just been downgraded by Moody at the last month. So we have to work on spending. We have to be strategic. We have to target the spending. We have to prioritize our spending. With the debt of 1.3 billion hanging over us, and then if we cannot properly portion money behind things that we should be focusing on, then is that we just keep digging ourselves in the hole, like the convention center we've been talking about. Where's the funding going to come from? How we maintain that structure? It's not just about getting something done, but how are we getting it done? How are we maintaining that? do we understand other cities or convention center? Who fund that? Who maintain it? We don't want something just sitting there that becomes an arbitrage on our neck. So we have to focus on our budget. Our budgeting is added an issue. Our budget is not focused on the things we should be focusing.
Thank you. Before I ask the next question, does anyone have a question for our candidates? I'd like to ask.
Say one.
Sure.
I think Michelle and anybody else can answer this too. You mentioned you guys some ideas on lowering housing costs specifically, like what were some of those ideas maybe?
Well, speaking with developers, I didn't realize all of the restrictions that you have because of the FEMA regulations. That you have to add soil and then to build a basement, then you have to take it away. Well, that costs money. That there's extra restrictions for basements now and regulations that add money to projects. I was quoted between $10,000 and $20,000 per home added cost because of these. Well, why would we spend millions and millions on a diversion? Billions. It doesn't make sense to me. So if we have a diversion in place, if that's protecting us, why do we still need to have all of the flood regulations in place? And that's what I had the conversation with Secretary Bergman. I plan to do that with other legislators as well. And I think that's why it's so important to actually talk to developers and builders and hear what your struggles are. I wasn't fully aware of that before, but now that I am, I can dig it. And that's why it's so important, I think, for people. And it's wonderful that you're here and you're engaged, that you can ask us and have us bring issues to the table. If I don't know it, I don't know everything, but I will dig in and I will find out.
One clarification on that, so you understand, would be all with the effects of the diversion won't be felt until it's certified.
Mhm.
And if we can do anything ahead of that, it's always been a weird thing to me is that when you've got the Corps of Engineers there every day, why does it take so damn long? That's been a gripe with FEMA for years. I mean, I attended a little session, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago at the public library, and it was a FEMA kind of stitch and bitch session. And it was all over this eastern side of the state, and the biggest complaint is the length of time it takes to be certified.
Mhm.
So I mean, any push that you can facilitate from the city, we've been asking that question with, the building inspections department and the engineering department about, because the certification, I think, may take up to 2 years.
Yeah.
And so anything that can push that will, take some of those regulations. Right now, there's no diversion, even coming, so that we still have to follow the rules that are in place until that certification.
Well, I have a developer that has a development ready to go in North Fargo that would be beautiful homes. He's ready to dig into the ground tomorrow, but the city wants him to build a flood wall, which the water would invariably go around anyway if we were to have a flood. It just makes no sense. And then we would have the diversion as well. I understand.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But the fact that we would require a flood wall in addition to having the diversion, it just is nonsensical to me. So our engineers obviously are not having discussions with FEMA, but we can absolutely reach out to our legislators and our other Secretary Bergman is another great example. He wants to see Fargo flourish and get to the bottom of this, see if there's something that we can do to make that process faster and to reduce the cost, because adding a flood wall and adding all the extras are adding to the price of homes, and it's making them unaffordable.
I mean, I think the one question that we all have is, once the diversion is in place and certified, what are we going to take? Where are we going to be at as far as some of the regulations that we've been following for these years? And that hasn't been exactly clarified either, where we're going to be at when it's in place and functioning. So it would be helpful, I think, from that perspective to start having those conversations now. So And again, some people, the comment has been made that some developers and people are waiting now for the diversion to be in place before they proceed with some projects.
Well, there's a lot of beautiful riverfront property that would be amazing places
Yeah.
for homes in Fargo, and with the diversion, right now you can't build, but with that certified, can we build? It would be a beautiful
Yeah.
view, it would be beautiful developments, and that is absolutely something that we need to get to the bottom.
And if I may, yes, respond, Mr. Compliment, thank you. I sit on the diversion board. I can tell you it's front and center to get the certification done earlier than later. Jason Benson, it's very much central to his goals this year is to expedite that process. And so, depending on what comes in with this remaining funding, and now with the changes in the Minnesota 80 million being backed, all of that's going to expedite the completion and the longer term debt. But in the end, certification is the number one priority, both the board and the staff. So I appreciate that.
Did you wanna-
Yeah, I think some of those delays and regulations, that's because we keep having the conversations with bits and pieces. And I agree with you. We need to have the conference on these kind of issues. Let other partners take it in the room and let's really discuss and see where the delays are coming from, remove the bottlenecks, and let's move this forward, because delay just doesn't work to our advantage.
Any more questions? Okay, so the next question will start with Denise. If elected, and each of you have kind of talked about this as well, what would be your top 3 priorities or top priorities?
Well, I talked about 2 of them in my opening statements. The other one is increasing engagement, which I've also touched on since, and better communication and transparency. But the last thing I'll say before I get into one other specific priority with working with the cabinet is professionalism. I think Fargo citizens deserve to have a commission and a mayor who collectively work together and represent them well, and that we're factual, and remember that we serve everyone in Fargo in this nonpartisan role, and we do it with respect and professionalism and lead by example. And so that'll be a priority for me. I can tell you one specific idea I have is really leveraging the cabinet, which is the director of every department, in a different way, working with administration, bringing to the table to look for efficiencies, to look for innovation. And right now we're seeing really kind of the 3 at the top running everything. And I think we need to have more transparency and more involvement from every department to know what the day-to-day is.
Thank you.
When I'm elected mayor, the first 3 things I want to work on, number 1 is safe food, have to promote safe neighborhoods. A city that is not safe will not be attractive to that. Those who already live there will find a way to leave. We need affordable housing. People who work in the city should be able to live in. We need that, and it's a serious issue that we have to look at. But of course, the third thing I want to work on is a leadership that listens. I think City Hall right now is so tuned in. City Hall doesn't care about the residents of Fargo. They believe they can just do what suits them and suits their friends, their colleagues, special interests. That's what they pay attention to, and not really paying attention to the needs of the residents of Fargo. We need to consider them to the people, and those are the things I want to work.
Michelle?
Public safety, core city services, and getting our spending under control. We need to have that spending focused on core city services. I think that will fix a lot of our problems and also help with the first item being public safety.
Thank you. Welcome, Josh. Thank you for coming. The question is, if elected, what would be your top 3 priorities or just top priorities? And 1 minute. Yeah.
Thank you, and apologies for being late. I was talking about Fargo Kiwanis stuff. So, yeah, so first and foremost is making sure that we get our budget right sized. That we continue to look at how do we focus on core services, but also making sure that the budget isn't getting out of hand. That's both on not only how do we create efficiencies through expense review and potential cuts, but also how do we do the revenue side of things? How do we make sure that as we grow as a city, we'll infill and greenfields, that we're bringing more property tax funding online, driving economic activity through sales tax,
so that we can continue to meet the needs of Fargoans with their priorities. Second to that would be affordable housing. As a real estate agent, I see firsthand how the ability for people to be able to buy a home or feeling stuck in renting. So how do we make sure that Fargo can be an affordable place? And of course, we look to partners like you, home builders, to find that way. And especially, how can we be creative? How can we find new ways of doing things? And that might sometimes mean looking at our regulations and taking some things off the books so that it can be built more affordable, both infill and greenfields. And then making sure that our public safety is paramount. And is that my signal? Going out to the neighborhoods, engaging neighborhoods so that we can hear what issues people have as it relates to public safety.
We'll start with St. Julia for the next question, and that is, as you may have heard, there's this extension of a tax, the 1% tax of our infrastructure.
Yep.
So just curious to know what your stance is on that, and then why you would or would not support it.
Oh, I would definitely support it. I mean, it has to be. It's been in place, I've been since 2006. I've got it flood of 1997. And it has helped the city to generate some income, I think about $34 million or $40 million. If that is not in place, where will we get that money from with the great deficit that we already suffer right now? So I would go to extend that. We should extend it because extending it does not add any extra tax burden on the Fargo resident. It's already been in place. And if we do not extend it, it will create another gap and where do we generate that money from? So I'm for it.
Michelle?
100%. We need the people who are utilizing our infrastructure and our public safety, our police and fire. We also have a public safety sales tax. We need our visitors and those using those services to help pay for them. We have people coming in every day using our roads, using our water. And absolutely, when they come here and spend their money, they can help pay for it. If we end this, it is going to be a burden on residents that if we are upset with special assessments now, the outrage will be astronomical. So this absolutely needs to pass.
Josh?
I'm in agreement. It's a tax that we're already used to paying. It's an opportunity for non-Fargo residents to help pay for our infrastructure. And we've seen the value that it has had on keeping specials as low as we can. Investment in infrastructure like water, both clean water and getting our dirty water out, especially as we regionalize that. So I'm actually more interested in also how can we look at the future of using that infrastructure sales tax to do more prioritization of to offset the impacts of specials on development and in neighborhoods and focus that money on things like 32nd Avenue and University Drive, so core roads throughout the city that those that are visiting the town are using more often than our neighborhoods, and then reducing the impact on our neighborhoods in terms of special assessments.
Denise?
Yeah, 100% in support. I have utilities in my portfolio. I'm so impressed by how efficiently they're run. But without that tax in place, everyone's utility bill would be 50% more off the top. And that's not even the impact of what happens to capital improvement projects and our CIP every year. When this tax was passed 20 years ago, many of you who were here then probably remember the potholes and the conditions of the streets. It was a lot different. It's the reason the impetus was there to get it passed. We have to remind folks of why it's so important. And then having, 50 to 60% paid for by visiting folks who use that infrastructure is also a huge benefit to the citizens. So absolutely support it.
Okay, thank you. Next question, we'll start with Michelle. If elected, what does success look like to you in the mayoral role?
Oh, I think there's so much we can improve on. Having been working in the city for the last couple of years, I've gotten to know the different departments, the different department leaders, administration, how the departments work, what works, what doesn't work. And I think being able to fix the problems and keep improving where we're doing well will be vital. I absolutely, as I've stated before, will focus on core city services. So your police will be much more noticeable. They will be out more. We won't be hearing the revving of the engines up and down 45th and 52nd. We'll clean up downtown. Hopefully the Civic Center will be in that location, bringing walkability and visitors and sales tax being used by those visitors. So there are a lot of great things ahead, and I'm really excited to get started.
you. Josh?
For me, success would look like, our master growth plan, which puts us to 2030, that it's actually being implemented, but it's also a tool that's being used to engage not just, again, developers and home builders, people who are active in this type of work, but also small business owners, immigrant business owners, and how do they see themselves in the growth plan. So when we look at infill and growth, that everyone can see themselves as a partner in that. Fargo, as we know it, is one of the fastest growing cities in the upper Midwest. We're the 11th most economically diverse community throughout the nation. And so success will look like we continue on that path and even probably get higher to the top of some of those numbers or those scales, knowing that Fargo continues to be a place that people want to call home, and that's an affordable place to call home.
Thank you, Denise.
Yeah, Fargo would be a city everyone is proud of. We would have a functioning commission that follows decorum and governance policy with a leader that actually can manage the meetings. And I'm not being critical of the current mayor there. I'm just saying that we have governance policies that need to be enforced, and that using the gavel when we need to use the gavel is important, and not being afraid to use it. Having a cabinet that's engaged or getting ahead of the meat of the issues is important. And then making sure that we increase citizen engagement and community engagement, and they understand the issues and we're not reacting to everything. Again, a city that everyone can be proud of.
Thank you, Sekou.
What elected mayor of Fargo Metro outcome for success for me would be the improvement in quality of life of our people. Two will be the reduction in crime. When we see the quality of life of Fargo residents improve, when we see reduction in crime, when we see housing becoming affordable, and when the city is transitioned from the commission to a council, I will see that as success. That's not only measure success. It's a service delivery.
We'll start with Josh first. How does the DIA fit your vision for the next 4 years?
For me, again, going back to discussions around housing affordability, the DIA, the realtors, apartment association, landlords, and tenants all play an important role in how we talk about affordable housing. We have to engage with stakeholders like you all to work towards a Fargo solution on these issues. Housing affordability is not unique to Fargo. It is something that is being faced across the country, but I think there's a solution specific to Fargo that if we tap into the talent and we work with you all to work towards that as a resolution. And for me, what that looks like is shortly after taking office of calling a task force on affordable housing, which you all would have a seat at, so that we can have a conversation about the realities of affordable housing in Fargo. Again, probably looking more on that regulation side of things to help us understand how can we be more creative, more dynamic, more innovative in that type of housing.
Denise?
Yeah, critical. The BIA is one of the primary stakeholders and all of its members in how we are going to continue to get ahead of the housing issue. And as I said before, we did the work that was the hard work as part of the MetroCog study, and then it's been sitting on the shelf. So how do we dust it off? How do we implement the low-hanging fruit in that report? Because there was some that was pretty clear, and get going, and then continue that momentum with your input and tackle the issues as they come up. Look at the regulation, look at ordinances that will be coming through the growth and land development plans, and be very collaborative.
Sekou?
Thank you. There are major stakeholders within the city. BIA is one of our major stakeholders, but we can make them major partners. You see, everybody in leadership, we got create policies, don't have to know everything. So we need to link organizations like the DIA with the level of professionalism they have and the experience that they have when it comes to construction, buildings, and development. They can be a major partner to guide city leadership in the direction of development, but most times leaders think we can do everything by ourselves. That's why I keep calling for a conversation, the dialogue, building partnerships, bringing all stakeholders together, and BIA can play that pivotal role in the future of Fargo. When I'm elected as mayor, definitely we need to bring people like BIA at the table so that they can advance their development and growth in our city.
Michelle?
No one feels the effects of city policy more than the people in this room. As mayor, I will make sure that you have predictability, that you have a system where costs are streamlined and timelines are clear and upfront, and there are not surprises coming for your projects. that you have efficiency. We need to streamline the permitting and inspections process and make that easier for you to build in Fargo and not choose to build in Moorhead and West Fargo. And a partnership. We need you at the table helping with this and to fix the problem that we currently have to make it more streamlined. And what can we do as a city to make Fargo your first choice to build?
Any questions, final questions?
I have to admit, sitting on this side without Bryce being here, this is normally with just anybody want to say anything? Fran, do you have? John, no, what do you have to say back there?
Well, well, I'm glad you're all in favor of the 170. I just part of the co-chairs on that. I think that's gonna be vital for keeping special assessments and down, and which is also a key to affordable housing and keeping people in their, particularly in the core neighborhoods, keeping it affordable for people. So
Elliot, I know you had a question last week when we had our West Fargo candidate forums. Do you want to ask that question if you remember?
No, I don't remember. It's not a question, and was suggested, regarding the 2-year tax abatement with, new housing. And in addition to that, there's discussion about streamlining the permit process and making it easier for builders to get permits and make it easier to work with City Hall for permits. In the event that the 2-year tax abatement is removed, do you think that you would be able to streamline enough permitting to offset people's desire to go where there is a 2-year tax abatement versus staying in Fargo without it?
Are you asking anyone specific?
I'm asking everybody, but I think you said that it needed to be studied, and if we don't need it, we can get rid of it.
There's definitely been conversations about it. Do we need it? Do we not need it? Do you feel like that's what is making people choose Fargo, is having that 2-year tax abatement? Because the fact is, and Suku, you may bring up that our younger people are in poverty, but when I got out of college, I didn't have any money. I think that's pretty common. And my first mortgage, my mortgage payment was $300 a month. Now, good luck finding a house that costs $300 a month that you actually pay. Is that what makes the difference? I realize it's all over, but do we need it? Is that what? And I have heard the horror stories of realtors that have not communicated the fact that this will come up in 2 years, that your payment is going to change. And some people have been taken aback by that. Now that's a lack of communication between those two parties, but that is definitely an issue that I have heard more than once.
But directly in regards to if Fargo were to get rid of it, do you think that there's incentive for people to build in Fargo versus the other cities, or would you see a massive drop off in?
I think right now, from what I've heard from developers, the permitting and the being able to start your projects is the bigger issue. I think that's priority number one. Making it so, I mean, we have developers that are ready to go today, that they could start their developments today, but the city is holding them up in addition to having to have flood walls. So to me, that's number one. The 2-year tax incentive for new home buyers, I think, is something down the road. I don't think that is something I would attack on day one. I think we need to make it easier for you to get into the ground, to build the homes, and those other things I mentioned earlier to make housing more affordable, because those obstacles are definitely a problem.
Okay. Denise, I see you shaking your head, so this was directed for everybody, so I'm just curious what everybody else's opinion is.
I think the elimination of the tax payment would have a significant impact on Fargo selling homes. They would first go to the surrounding area market. We got rid of it and the others didn't. Is that your question?
Yeah.
Significant impact to Fargo, for at least for maybe five until it was changed back. Like, we've seen happen before. I mean, I just see it, I think it would.
So I can talk about this from someone who works with home buyers, and you might not like my answer. I have not had anyone decide to build a home where they are because of tax, 2-year tax payment. They don't know about it until I get to be Santa Claus at the closing table and hand them the sheet and say, oh, by the way. And then, like you said, the issue of that communication, it's unfortunate that people's response, because I can tell you the lenders are having them sign 3 different versions of now, pay attention, this is going to change in 2 years. What I'd rather tackle is making sure that we work with the state to get that $1,600 property tax credit so that new construction qualifies, because if anyone moves into their home after April 1st, they do not qualify. Trying to do that with last special session, I think that is more impactful to keep people moving forward to build. And it's an incentive. Now, I know it becomes an equalizer across communities, but again, in my experience as a real estate agent, it's very rare that anyone has even understood or made a decision based on that tax payment. I tell people, I get to be Santa Claus at the closing table saying, remember, you fill out this form and let's take it over to City Hall so you get your property taxes reduced.
And how about the 1,600 just automatic instead of having to make sure that it's filed and you sign up for it? And
I'd agree. The Minnesota does it as a credit. And so if we could figure out that system, the challenge when we implemented the $1,600 and $500, as you all know, before that was there was so much focus on making it work for the counties. And now we're dealing with those of us that are practitioners, the boots on the ground, and how it actually works for folks. And that's the tax reform committee is studying that and looking at that and taking feedback from home builders and realtors, because it would be nice to do more of the credit, because also it impacts escrowing. So the lenders are dealing with people's escrows going in and out and getting refunds and not and all that. So I think there's a simpler way for North Dakota to do that, but that's a conversation we'd have to have with the legislature and the counties for implementing that.
I will add that I think if it was eliminated, the tax payment only by Fargo, that it would take 1 day for the surrounding communities to make sure everyone did know about that. So it would have an impact.
I think we need a holistic approach on these things. I mean, taking some of these conversations piecemeal, those are the problems we experience in the delays. And I mean, unfortunately, Michelle and Denise, they work for the city, but when I hear them talk about, oh, the delay, city, you are the city. So if there's delay, you created the delay because you should be able to work on those things to make sure those delays are removed. I can work with city hall as a commissioner and then I complain that the city side an issue. That means I'm not an issue. So I have 1 vote if I'm a commissioner. So I should be able to take care of those things. I can't spend 3 or 4 years on the city commission and then complain that the city is creating delays. I'm the city. So let us be factual and let's approach these things holistically. Let's come to the table. Let's bring all the partners. Let's see where we can fix some of these problems. The reason is when we handle these things sectorially, then we created the foreseeable problems. So let all the partners come to the table and let us discuss these issues and know exactly where the problems are, and let's apply the appropriate fix to these problems. I think that's the right way to go.
Okay, any last question before closing statements?
One question.
Sure.
How would you guys handle this if you were elected mayor? Well, it's well known that some other people maybe running for a city commission, things like that, have a very different view on the BIA and what's their role with helping you guys would be. I know you guys have all said that we're an asset to you, where there's obviously different opinions as far as us maybe just being there to line our pockets or to tell you what to do to line our own pockets. Obviously that's not how we feel, but how would you guys, I guess, deal with somebody being that you're working with on a day-to-day basis as far as bringing us into the conversation and letting them know that we should have a seat at that table?
I think that's where, again, my idea of creating the task force on affordable housing, having you have a seat equal to everyone else at the table so we can talk about those things, and there's more proactive communication about the role that our home builders and developers play in affordable housing. I think we also have to remind people that our building community is different than a lot of other regions, especially growing regions. These are all locally owned businesses that if we can continue to support to make sure that they're helping us figure out how we do growth, again, both greenfields and infield, we are more successful at keeping that money in our community versus having a Lennar or a Pulte come in from Minneapolis and try to take up some of that space because they can come in and undercut you with whatever financing options they have built on bigger market or, their balance sheet that they're going to borrow against. So I think if we have a healthy local builder community, we're able to do more and solve problems, especially from people who live here, whose families also are probably struggling to build a home or to own their own home, whether it's a cousin or someone else in your neighborhood. When we have those local people here helping us find those local solutions, I think it's important.
Well, I asked Elizabeth for the recording so I could hear all of the replies from the earlier session. That would be a surprising answer to hear, I guess. So I would have to find out more why they would feel that way. I often think, why do we even outsource consultants when we have our own consultants right here? Having discussed some of these issues with some developers, they're like, we would do that for free. I mean, we have experts in the community that deal with this every day. So, I have to learn more about why they feel that way, because it just doesn't really make sense to me.
Good to hear.
I would say, if somebody's having, maybe city commissioner who's running for seat, if they have a different mindset. These mindsets are, gained from different, places, miscommunication, promoting misunderstanding, personal persuasion, and sometimes political persuasion. So people form their opinion by some of these things, but nobody can resist the data. Nobody can, challenge the data. What the data says, that's what it is. So if we can bring these people to the table and show them the data and show them exactly what BI is doing and what Fargo is up against and what we are, supposed to be working on, you can change some of those persuasions. Somebody who believes in something totally different, and they are shown the data and they change their beliefs. So I think we need to have conversation on this. And that's what democracy is about. That people have different opinions, people have different beliefs, but how we can bring them to the table and show them the data, they can help, change some of those persuasions.
And I'll add bringing solutions and policy to the table has been the work of community stakeholders. And communicated and been transparent along with the public in itself has a lot of power in the final decision making, but starting also with leadership that has purpose and intentional in their approach on managing a meeting and managing a conversation with integrity and facts. That has to be also part and front and center as part of the presentation of that information to the public. And so not being able to correct real-time misinformation, we've got to get better at that. Bring the public along.
Thank you all. Well, now we'll get into our closing statements. This is 1 minute, so I think we start with Denise for the closing statements.
I started.
That's just weird how it worked out that way.
I won't go over, if I start, as my time started? All right. I think I've spent the last 4 years preparing for this job as city commissioner and mayor, and I've been very intentional in learning and understanding what the issues are so that I could hit the ground running in this position. I'm all in, this isn't a title for me. This is the only office I'll ever run for. And I'm not running to be the mayor. I'm running to be your mayor, and I'm running to be collaborative, communicative, and work on the issues that Fargo cares about, so Fargoans can be really proud of the city they live in. And I think it starts with conversations like this. It starts with understanding how the city runs and how the city works, and being passionate about the role as being Fargo's not only #1 leader of the commission, but also #1 ambassador to citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think quality of life is about safe neighborhood, it's about strong schools and good infrastructure and a vibrant economy. And as mayor, when I'm elected, those are the values that I would want to promote, because Fargo is a great town and I'm happy for all those who call Fargo home. And we have to make Fargo a place that everybody will want to come to without and removing some of those restrictions that hamper our growth. We need to give our partners the opportunity to come to the table. We all listen. We need a city that can listen to all our partners and stakeholders, so we can all chat and path forward to build a better Fargo.
Thank you. Michelle?
I want to thank each and every one of you for coming today, as you are all literally building Fargo's future. At the end of the day, this conversation comes down to one simple question, and that is Fargo going to be a city that makes it easier or harder to build? Right now, I hear your frustration, uncertainty in special assessments, delays, a system that too often feels unpredictable. And when that happens, it doesn't just affect your projects, it affects every family trying to buy a home and every business deciding whether to invest in it. That has to change. As mayor, I will focus on three things: clarity, efficiency, and partnership. Clear expectations from day one, efficient processes that respect your time and investment, and a true partnership between City Hall and people doing the work on the ground. Because when you succeed, Fargo grows, homes get built, families move in, and our community thrives. We have an opportunity right now not just to grow, but to grow the right way. And that means restoring trust, removing unnecessary barriers, and making Fargo one of the best places in the Midwest to build. I'm ready to do that work, and I would be honored to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh?
Thanks for the opportunity to visit with you all today. I'm not going to be a mayor who talks about the things I'm going to do when I've been in the driver's seat. I'm going to be a mayor who's going to show you the things that I've already done and bring that to City Hall. My experience in the legislature, as well as being a real estate agent, helps me understand first and foremost the challenges that your industry specifically and my industry are facing. I went to Bismarck and worked with all legislators from all political parties, the governor's office. We were able to secure $25 million, the largest cash infusion into the housing incentive fund, so that we could build affordable housing across the state. We were able to quadruple the state investment in housing crisis funding, that money that goes to the YWCA and presentation partners to address keeping people in their housing and make sure people get rehoused. So I don't talk about the hypotheticals of things I'm going to do. I'm able to demonstrate the things that I have done and what I bring to the mayor's office in partnership with organizations like yours, and continue to move Fargo forward and make us an even greater city than we already are. So thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for your patience with me being targeted.
Thank you all for coming today and sharing your insights and your perspectives. Obviously, these, as Elizabeth had said earlier, these are very informative for us as well, as we look in to see what the candidates are for and how that aligns with the BIA. And so we thank you for taking that time as well. And so with that, that concludes the debate, I guess, or question or interview. But we do ask that members of the BIA here to stick around for a few minutes afterwards. Thank you.